In the AI era, any technology advantage is temporary. The speed at the moment is increasing tremendously, right? And the durable advantage is a learning speed, so of the human being. That's actually where you distinguish yourself from others.
What happens when you spend more than a decade studying entrepreneurs but don't stop at studying them? You build one of the Europe's leading university entrepreneurship ecosystems. You invest in startups yourself. You work with founders and executives. You research how companies grow, how entrepreneurs make decisions, and how innovation happens inside large organizations. And then, instead of seeing entrepreneurship simply as a way of building a company, you start looking at as a way of living. That's the journey of our guest today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of School to Startup, brought to you by Tracxn, a private market intelligence platform that's been supporting the global university ecosystem for over 12 years. Through our university partnerships, we work with institutions driving innovation and entrepreneurship, and this series highlights academic leaders making that happen. I'm Harish, your host today. Joining us today is Professor Dr. Dietmar, Vice President of Innovation and Quality, and a member of Executive Board at the University of St. Gallen, where he is also a Professor of Entrepreneurship and Director of the Institution of Technology Management. Over the years, he's worked across entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial finance, startup and scale-up management, corporate venture, and innovation. He's helped build the entrepreneurship ecosystem at St. Gallen, worked with founders and investors, and continues to bridge the world of academic research with what actually happens in the entrepreneurial world. And perhaps that's what makes his perspective particularly interesting. He's not just observing entrepreneurship from the outside, he's been studying it, building it, funding it, and living it. Professor, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Harish, for the warm welcome. Great to join your podcast today.
Great. Let me start with your own journey. You went from banking to academia and eventually into entrepreneurship and university leadership. When you look back, what was the turning point that set you on this path?
As you mentioned, I actually started as a banker, so a very safe path. And then during my postdoc phase as an academic, I researched on venture capital, encountered with venture capital, and I caught a virus I never recovered from, entrepreneurship. And it was of course felt like a risk, but it was probably the best decision of my professional life to stay with entrepreneurship than as a researcher and teacher, and also as a facilitator of startups and scale-ups.
Interesting. And when you started your career, did you actually imagine that you would end up spending your life studying entrepreneurship? Or did you simply keep following interesting problems and opportunities, and entrepreneurship emerged along the way?
Well, actually, I mean, if you think about a profession which takes so much time to train for, I mean, there's no other profession, I assume, than being a professor, which takes so much time. Even there are other professions which are much more important from my point of view, being a medical doctor or lawyer, but they are, educated much faster than a professor. And what I want to say is, I think you can't plan for such an academic career. It draws you in, right, by personal interest, by striving for truth, which nowadays is more and more important, right, being a scientist. So no, I didn't plan for it. Starting as a banker was a good motivation to move forward with another profession, to be honest, than to go for the academic career. And what drives me, is evidence-based research on how founders and investors make decisions under uncertainty. This is a phenomenon which is fascinating. I mean, they are masters of uncertainty. Entrepreneurs are masters of uncertainty. And to put these insights you gain from evidence-based research directly into practice with hundreds of startups in our ecosystem. That is actually a privilege I live for every day.
Interesting. That's my next question on uncertainty. You talk about entrepreneurship as a way of thinking, designing and acting under uncertainty. So, if you could give a university student just one entrepreneurial habit to develop over the next year, what would it be?
So, I mean, there's a big elephant in the room nowadays, which is AI, right? And so the technology in general moves faster, and so the more actually when it moves faster, the more the fundamentals matter. And actually, when you think about technology startups, let's take this focus, right? So start with the problem, not the technology. So the technology is just a means, right? When you're an engineer at an engineering school, right, you have a strong tendency to work on technical problems, deliver great solutions, which are actually not that much needed at the end, in some cases, on the market, right? So this relevancy matters the most, and the customer's unresolved problems is actually the business in the context of entrepreneurship, right? So then take evidence over opinion, right? So identify the most risky assumptions and test them with very cheap prototypes before scaling anything, right? That's very, very important. Then there is a method, I would call it the entrepreneurial method, which was discovered in 2000 by Sarah Saraswati, a great colleague from the US. So she has actually 3 rules where you should start, or with other words, which will not hinder you not to start. These are your means, and this is idiosyncratic, so unique to every one of you, which means ask 3 questions: who you are. So what are your priorities? What are your preferences? You know them. This is based on your values. This is based on your culture, right? Where you come from. The second question is, what do you know? So what is your knowledge, or the applied knowledge, the expertise? What are your skills, your particular skills? Where are your strengths? Not the weaknesses. Focus on the strengths. Third questions: who do you know, or by whom are you known? So these are your social strong and also the weak ties, your network. So based on these 3 questions, you can start and turn opportunities into market solutions and commercialize your ideas. And very important, this is my favorite principle of effectuation: turn surprises into opportunities. What is meant by this? I mean, entrepreneurs, when they get lemons, they don't produce lemonade juice, they produce lemonade stands, right? So they build lemonade stands. And that's the way how you can scale, how you have platforms and so forth, right? Last but not least, entrepreneurship is a team sport. Sometimes you find solo entrepreneurs which climb the hill free solo. This can work, right? And oftentimes you start like a free solo entrepreneur, but then team up with friends, not with enemies, of course. And with like-minded people. That's what I want to say. And then, but like-minded people, same ambition, but heterogeneous skills. So build interdisciplinary founding teams, and so where technological excellence meets commercial judgment, right? That would be the dream team. And again, in the AI era, any technology advantage is temporary. The speed at the moment is increasing tremendously, right? And the durable advantage is a learning speed, so of the human being. That's actually where you distinguish yourself from others. And then fast evidence-based iteration from day one will drive you through the process. You should have the focus on the process, not the outcome. Do not be driven by goals, be driven by your means. And these are the means I just mentioned, right? The effectual means.
Amazing. You mentioned about the elephant, but you have spoken a lot about camels, right? So I really like that idea because the startup ecosystem has spent years celebrating billion-dollar valuations and hypergrowth. So have we become too obsessed with the unicorn story?
So I have to admit, actually, the metaphor of the camel is not my idea. It goes back to Lazier in the Harvard Business Review. He wrote a great article of camels as a metaphor of kind of more durable business model approaches. So the thing, it goes back to actually blitzscaling by Reid who tells us the unicorn metaphor, right? It works very well in the Bay Area, but as we all know, beyond the Bay Area or in bear markets, actually, is not working very well. So I'm coming from a European perspective, right? So here we have different traditions of family businesses, for example, right? They have a long tradition. SMEs are the backbone of our economies, whether it's in Switzerland, where I'm at the moment, or in Germany, where I originally come from. So here I was very actually intrigued by this camel metaphor. What is meant by this? Well, first of all, the first difference between a unicorn and a camel is camels actually exist. Unicorns do not. What is meant by the unicorns, right? It's a $1 billion valuation of a startup or even more, right? Which is nice if you have a scalable business based on your data or whatever, and it could make sense as a kind of big picture for your business. But a camel allows for more persistence, right? It's a very durable animal. Probably you don't know, right? But a camel can survive 30 days without water, which is amazing. Every human being would be dead, right? But a camel can survive it's a long-lasting animal. And in times of what we are facing at the moment, where valuations of VCs are very much oriented towards AI cases, and the number of early stage deals is decreasing, not the overall amount, but the number. So it becomes much more difficult to survive, actually, and to build business models more based on capital efficiency, how we call it, where you show with small teams with little money that you can scale more out of this instead of big money approaches. I think this is a very thought-provoking idea, and it is actually something which is coming up more and more in nowadays. And last but not least, to mention also, camel can sprint very fast. If they need to. so I love this metaphor. It's just a picture, but it tells us a lot how you can build startups. And we have also to think about that unicorns are an outlier game from a VC or venture capital perspective, right? There's extreme outliers. And I, being a scientist, I tend to think in normal distribution curves. So we have to think about the big bubble in the middle, right? And I have no clear study about this, but I assume that we have much more camels in the big bubble than unicorns, which are at the upper end of the curve.
Amazing. And then now let's talk about the transition from university to startup kind of a thing. A student can be academically brilliant and still struggle when they actually have to build something. So what changes when someone moves from learning about entrepreneurship to actually doing it?
So I mean, the thing is, it's entrepreneurship is not a theoretical game, right? As much as I'm in love for theories and thought experiments, entrepreneurship is doing. So this might be the biggest shift. So ask yourself, what actually is your why, right? What is the famous purpose question? So not the question of what am I doing or what am I studying or how do I do things? If you're on the studying student side, this might be the main questions. You're oftentimes very driven by extrinsic motivation. So credits, right, grades, and of course the graduation and career perspectives at the end, which is absolutely fine, right? But entrepreneurs should be driven, if you want to start your own business, by intrinsic motivation. And it's not money. It's not becoming rich. It could happen, but here I have some bad news, at least for high income countries. Again, right, I'm a bit in a bubble here in Switzerland, but I tell my students when they enter my courses and ask them, why are you here? And the bachelor students are very nice people and very enthusiastic, and they are very honest, and they say, well, I want to become rich. I said, oh, bad news. Actually, to become an employee of a big company like UBS or ABB might be the better choice for you, because on average, entrepreneurs earn less. But of course, if they have an exit afterwards, it might become rich, right? But this should be not the driving force, right? It should be a derivative of your main purpose. Coming back to the beginning of our interview here, what is actually the problem which drives your passion? So where are you passionate for to find solutions for? Is it a classical business approach, right, in having a fintech or insurtech or legal tech startup, or to scale it as much as you can, having impact in a business way, or is it a green or social entrepreneurial endeavor, right, where we also solve environmental problems beyond the business, right? So kind of a missionary approach. So ask yourself, what drives me? And if you have answered this question, you find, and this should be given, the drive or passion, right, to start your own business. Not sure, Harish, if I've actually answered your question because it was a little bit different. I think you said what you should look for if you start, or what's the difference between being a student and being an entrepreneur. Actually, I would finish up with saying there should be no difference. The best time in your life to start your business is actually during your student time, and as a university and other universities, actually we promote this, right? We say, try it out, because the learning curve in doing these kind of things is very, very steep in the way we can't actually teach it, right? So learning by doing matters a lot for entrepreneurship.
Amazing. And you have also been involved in building the entrepreneurship ecosystem at St. Gallen for more than a decade now. When you look back to the beginning of startup at HSZ, what did you believe then that you no longer believe today?
Wow, that's a very, very difficult question. So yeah, I think I have one. So before I saw it, right, there's a clear game plan, a master plan. So there's a blueprint how to build ventures on your own, whether it's as an institution, how to promote this, or as an individual person or team. Nowadays, I strongly believe that it's a question of a great ecosystem. So it's a joint endeavor and we know this from very famous places in the world where entrepreneurship is iconic, right? We don't have to mention Silicon Valley or European places where this happens. No, it's more like a micro ecosystem. So is there support from every angle of this ecosystem for individuals who want to build their own venture? Here we are actually in a very small place. St. Gallen has 80,000 inhabitants. It's not like Paris. It's not like London or New York, right? But if you have, the question is not about a location. Silicon Valley is not a location. It's a place where people have the same mindset, what we call the growth mindset. So growth mindset is meaning going out of your comfort zone, right? Meet like-minded people to team up with, to build something great, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of impact. And this is something I'm really privileged to be at our university here in St. Gallen. What we share, our talents are great talents, not because of the grades they achieve during their studies, but because of their engagement. So we have a lot of student clubs built by students. We have the Start Summit in Europe. It's quite famous, 7,000 participants, a student-led conference every March. So we have them all together here, investors, entrepreneurs, scientists, coming to the little town of St. Gallen to meet the ecosystem, right? And this is fully student-led. So 200 and more students giving up the studies for 1 year to build this conference, and this is engagement, right? And so that's the point here where I think the ecosystem is key. It's really key for success.
Amazing. Finally, like if we look 10 years ahead, right? What do you think the university experience should look like for a student who wants to become, entrepreneur?
So 10 years ago, that's a long period. I would give it a try for 5 years. So I think, as I mentioned before, right, AI provides us with the new methods of work. So we can build startups now in teams of 3 people, where you needed 30 people before. And because the barriers to certain competences are lowered, right? And we can build startups now within months instead of years. And this is a speed taking off where, to be honest, I don't know where this leads to, but it gives us higher speed. And I think 10 years later, students will tell us, I mean, your times were so slow. I mean, my young kids, they will tell me, wow, this was actually boring time, probably. Now we are doing things based on hours, minutes, or seconds because of the AI opportunities we have. And this will change a lot and this will challenge universities in research, in teaching, and in transfer. And this is actually these are the backbones of our universities. So we need to find new approaches. But as I said at the beginning, like in entrepreneurship, we have to focus on the process. Winners and losers have the same goals. Who wins at the end has a better system, has a better process, right? And this we need to figure out now. We are at the beginning of this wave and shift towards a new kind of university.
Interesting. But this was incredible discussion. Today, we explored what it really means to be entrepreneurial, not just to build a startup, but to think, decide, and act differently when the future is uncertain. Thank you very much, Professor, for being part of School to Startup and for sharing your journey and insights with us.
Thank you, Harish. It was a pleasure.
Great. And for everyone watching, if you have enjoyed the conversation, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more conversations with the people shaping the next generation of entrepreneurship. We'll see you in the next episode.